وهذا كتاب أنزلناه مبارك فاتبعوه واتقوا لعلكم ترحمون.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Al-An'am and from the Tafseer of Imam Al-Sa'di rahimahullah and verses 125 till 127 hopefully inshallah 125 to 127. يقول الله عز وجل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فمن يرد الله أن يهديه يشرح صدره للإسلام ومن يرد أن يضله يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء كذلك يجعل الله الرجس على الذين لا يؤمنون وهذا صراط ربك مستقيما قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يذكرون لهم دار السلام عند ربهم وهو وليهم بما كانوا يعملون. The translation: and whomsoever Allah wills to guide, He opens his breast to Islam, heart, and whomsoever He wills to send astray, He makes his heart closed and constricted, as if he is climbing up to the sky. Thus Allah puts the wrath on those who believe not. And this is the path of your Lord, leading straight. We have detailed our revelations for a people who take heed. For them will be the home of peace with the Lord, and He will be their wali because of what they used to do. So this ayah 125 فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Imam Al-Sa'di rahimahullah, he says يقول تعالى مبينا لعباده. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying مبينا, making it clear, لعباده, to his slaves, to the believers, علامة سعادة العبد. يقول تعالى مبينا لعباده علامة سعادة العبد, the sign of the سعادة or the happiness of the human being, the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وهدايته, and his guidance, وعلامة شقاوته وضلال, and also the sign of his shaqawa, has been perished and ruined and deviated. This is the sign, whether a person is guided or not guided, whether a person is happy or wretched. فَمَا يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him to be guided, يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ, his sadr, his heart, and the sadr, as we know, is the breast, and the breast is the place where the heart is contained in it, the chest, and it refers to the inside of the person, as we said. So this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expand, will make inshirah to his heart, and this is the non-physical meaning of tightness versus something that is spacious. When a person feels tight inside, so as we see that there's things that are physical, there are things that we don't see it with our own eyes, but it's clearly explained. And as it's going to be mentioned, inshallah ta'ala, but yashrah, al-sharh comes from when the meat is cut off and opened. And they even use that for the slides, shariha, a piece, a slice, or a sample. So yashrah sadrahu al-Islam, right? We get to benefit from the physical meaning of how the non-physical meanings are. So his heart is wide open, is spacious, would have in it the deen of Islam with ease, with happiness, with contentment. As it's mentioned before, that the disbelievers, the matter has been adorned for them. كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ الْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. As the previous verses talked about how the disbelievers, the evil of their actions has been adorned to them in their hearts. And this is different than al-Islam and haqq, when the sadr or the heart, al-inshirah happens to it. It's different than azina, than something of adornment from the outside, but the inside, the core of it is evil. No, the iman is different. So that's why the sadr is mentioned, not just the heart, which is gives the spaciousness of it. So he says here, يقول تعالى مبينا لعبادي علامة سعادة العبد وهدايته وعلامة شقاوته وضلاله. The two signs. إن من انشرح صدره للإسلام, that the one that his heart has been expanded, انشرح للإسلام, أي اتسع. What is انشرح? اتسع, becomes spacious, and الاتساع is when something get expanded. وانفسح, the same thing. الانفساح or الفسحة is when something is also become expanded with ease. فاستنار بنور الإيمان. فاستنار sought the light or brought the light of الإيمان بنور الإيمان. وحيي بضوء اليقين. حيي, that means the heart becomes alive. The life of the heart has been given by the light of اليقين, certainty. فاطمأنت بذلك نفسه. So his nafs becomes in state of tranquility as a result of that. وأحب الخير, and he loved then as a result of that الخير. وطوعت له نفسه فعله, and his nafs becomes at ease with doing what is good, as the same word is used in Surah Al-Ma'idah. فطوعت له نفسه قتل أخيه. When the son of Adam, his nafs made it easy for him to kill his brother. So the nafs can make either easy for the person to do good or to do evil. So فطوعت, from الطاعة, from the obedience. So his nafs, طوعت له نفسه, and made it very easy for him to love the khair, to love the good, and to do what is good. وطوعت له نفسه فعله متلذذا به غير مستثقل. متلذذا, التلذذ, اللذة is the desire or the enjoyment. So the person becomes in such a state that this is his joy, to do what is good. غير مستثقل, without having the heaviness of it, without a thiqal or the heaviness of the khair or the actions. And this is stages that a person would go through, as mentioned before. And this nafs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the human being. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best how the human beings are. So when a person leave himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify himself, to rectify himself, this is the level of submission that is needed, so that the person does not think that he knows himself. No, we do not know ourselves. So we need to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are all stages, as we said. In the first initial thing is that al-khayr, because of the shayateen and the adornment of the evil and the desires and all of these things, it's heavy. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Salah is great, is heavy, except for those who have khushu'. So when a person knows that this is the haqq, he would still do it, even if it's heavy, even if he doesn't feel like it, and he would seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go through al-mujahada and the struggle, because this is the truth. And with the ayat of the Quran and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Till by the will of Allah, then the person, his heart becomes expanded with al-khayr. And this is owned by Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one, فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him to be guided, then his heart will be made spacious enough for the khayr to be in there, for the light of al-iman. For the person, then his joy is to do the good, is to do what is good. His joy is to follow the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And it doesn't mean that the matter become no burden whatsoever, no, because this is part of being human beings. But it's the level of the soul, it's the level of the being. It's like, again, when someone wants to get it clear into one's mind, is when you're fasting. When you're fasting, you're hungry, you're thirsty. No one can say, I enjoy hunger, I enjoy thirst. There's no such a thing. But what keeps you fasting is the obedience of Allah. And there's a level of joy there that a person is, which is in his soul. That he is, the fact that he is following the commands of Allah. And then he gets also the physical joy when he breaks his fast. And what becomes present in his heart with the love of being steadfast upon the deen of Allah. So he says, فَإِنَّ هَذَا عَلَامَةٌ. If a person reaches that state, this is the sign, عَلَى أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ هَدَاهُ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him. وَمَنَّ عَلَيْهِ بِالتَّوْفِيقِ وَسُلُوكِ أَقْوَامِ الطَّرِيقِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed his favor upon him to be upon at-tawfiq, to be guided and to take and to seek the path of what is best and the most just of all paths. So this is فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ الْإِسْلَامِ. And in it, of course, it shows what to do so that the person is guided to the deen of Allah. is to follow the commands of Allah and to be away from what's mentioned before and to be patient. To know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants and to be truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to take the means till the person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is going to open his heart. So therefore he has to constantly ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he does not attribute it to his own self. So he humble himself, and that's the khushu'. This is the humbleness that's supposed to be there. And whether he feels or he doesn't feel, it doesn't matter. He might not even feel anything, it doesn't matter. He's a abd of Allah. So this is the sign so that people do not refer to feelings. Feelings has nothing to do with a person being on the haqq or in the batil. It's about the haqq that a person follows. So as long as he follows the haqq, which is known, it's not ambiguous, it's very clear, then this is a good sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will goodness for him. Then he says, وَأَنَّ عَلَامَةَ مَا يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يُضِلَّ. The opposite. And the alama, the sign for a person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him to be deviated by the justice of Allah, by the wisdom of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. What is it? وَمَن يُرِدْ أَن يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. أنه يجعل صدره, الصدر again is the heart or the inside of the person, ضيقا, which is, الضيق is when something is tight, something is very narrow. Narrow does not fit the person. Something very tight for the person, that means it doesn't fit him. And harajan has the same meaning, but al-haraj describes الضيق. So ضيقا, tight. Harajan, al-haraj is shiddatul dhiq, the intensity of the dhiq that makes the person so much uncomfortable. Because not every dhiq can be haraj or has the state of al-haraj. Al-haraj is when someone finds unease and difficulty. So he says here, but we hear what he says, أي في غاية الضيق, in the highest level of tightness, عن الإيمان والعلم واليقين. What is the tightness from what? From al-iman. There's no spaciousness, no place for al-iman. The matters of al-iman becomes tight for him. Wal-ilm, and knowledge, and yaqeen, and certainty. قد انغمس قلبه في الشبهات والشهوات. His heart has been انغمس. انغمس, that means immersed in the doubts, الشبهات والشهوات, the desires, the sinful desires. فلا يصل إليه خير. Already the heart is contained with evil things. The heart is corrupted with doubts, with disbelief, with desire for things that are sinful. So there's no space for al-iman. And al-iman is aziz. Al-iman is honored, does not get into a place where it's contaminated. So the heart is immersed in these things. فَلَا يَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ الْخَيْرِ. When the khayr comes, he finds it tight. He doesn't feel like he wants to do the good. Why? Because his heart is already filled with filth. So this is the tightness that people might deceive themselves or be deceived by thinking if they leave the matter to their desires, that means it's not a good thing because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't work this way. It's because you corrupted. You are corrupted. So it's not because that it doesn't feel good. It's the person himself, al-mahill, the place, is not healthy to receive what is good. And this has many examples in the physical life, but this is here. انغمس قلبه في الشبهات والشهوات فلا يصل إليه خير. No خير comes to it. لا ينشرح قلبه لفعل الخير. His heart does not ينشرح, does not become spacious to الخير. كأنه من ضيقه وشدته, as if he is from this tightness and the intensity of the tightness, يكاد almost يصعد في السماء. ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء, as if he is being raised into the skies. And يصعد is not يصعد. يصعد is to go up, yes. And المصعد, they give the elevator the name مصعد because it takes you up. So here not يصعد. What the difference between يصعد and يصعد? This is shadda here, that means more meaning to it. That means it's beyond one's ease. He's being pulled up. So that's why he says كأنه يكلف أو يكلف الصعود إلى السماء, as if he is being pulled up into the higher meaning to the skies or to above. الذي لا حيلة فيه, he has no choice. He has no choice, and that's why يصعد في السماء. And the more the person goes higher, the more things inside becomes tight. And we're not going to say that this is like the scientific things about the pressure. When you go up, it becomes less, so you feel tightness and you're not able to breathe when the elevation is high. Yes, this is true scientifically, but again, it gives that meaning. كأنما يصعد في السماء. He's not able to feel the spaciousness anymore. And what's the reason for that? وهذا سببه عدم إيمانه. The reason for that is that they don't have al-iman or faith. هو الذي أوجب أن يجعل الله الرجس عليه. This is what made by necessity upon them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make the rijs, the impurity, the evil upon them. لأنهم سدوا على أنفسهم, because they are the ones that blocked, سدوا على أنفسهم, for themselves, باب الرحمة والإحسان, the door or the gate of mercy and goodness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. That's why he says وهذا ميزان لا يعول. This is a mizan, this is a balance that is never to be changed. وطريق لا يتغير, and a path that would never change. فإن من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى, as in Surah Al-Layl, whoever gives and have the taqwa of Allah and believes in al-husna, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ييسره الله لليسرى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make easy for him the matters of ease. ومن بخل واستغنى, and whoever is greedy and feels he does not need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala والعياذ بالله, وكذب بالحسنى, and deny what is right, فسييسره للعسرى. This is as the end of Surah Al-Layl mentioned. So it's because of the actions of the human being. So even though the ayah says فَمَن يُرِيدِ اللَّهِ, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will to guide, versus the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will for him to be deviated, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. So it's the actions of the people that would lead them to such either good matters or evil matters. And this is an ayah that of course requires for the person to reflect upon and to act upon it by distancing oneself from or from relying upon oneself. And this is the essence of al-ubudiyyah to Allah. That a person, when he reads this, he sees that he does not have any power whatsoever. So he returns to Allah. He rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also a great benefit to know that al-haq or al-khayr versus the evil is something to be detached from one's feelings. And a person has to be very awakened when it comes to this matter. Al-khayr has nothing to do with how you feel. To remove this completely from the heart. Because this is where the confusion and the deviation comes in place. Al-haq qadim. Al-haq is before you and before me and before anyone. It has nothing to do with your feelings. So this is the haq. What is the haq? What is the truth? This is the concern of the person. And in his heart, regardless whether it feels good, does it feel good, easy, difficult, all of that is to be completely detached, separated from al-haq. And where is the haq is not owned by any human beings whatsoever. It's by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore the wahy from Allah. The importance of al-ilm of the wahy, the knowledge of the wahy. And to get to know that, and once a person knows it, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, knowledge comes before speech and actions, which is agreed upon, which is a principle in the deen of Allah. To know first, regardless of your culture, your ways, your feelings, and all of this. And then once you know it, then you start seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and struggling with oneself to be upon that haqq, that you get to know it very well, that is not contaminated with desires. This is the path of seeking guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can go on and on with this, even if someone, when Muslims are together, when a person gives opinions about a group, for example, is it the group, this group is the deen of Islam? It's not the deen of Islam. We are human beings, or a human being. We have faults, we have mistakes. What makes you angry? Is it because of your group? Is it because of your masjid? Is it because of your sheikh? What is it? Or the haqq that the person is concerned about? So this truthfulness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees it in the hearts. And the more we say it, the more we see the importance of learning this haqq without being attached to anything else. And therefore a person would love for the truth to be there, and therefore he would seek the guidance, because the matter is a very serious one. Deviation can easily happen, and it's a very dangerous one. Versus the guidance. فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the hearts, and not for the person to be deceived by what he sees of himself today or or how he is, or with who his companions are, whatever there is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who deserve what. And this is something in the heart. وَمَنْ يُرِدَ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Just before we go to the next ayah, because of the importance and the great benefits, and of course there's no end to the benefits from the Quran. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, when he mentioned the sign of goodness, that a person finds himself at ease with matters of goodness, it doesn't mean that the matter becomes easy physically. No, a person has to put through the struggle, and we gave the examples of if someone has the certainty of something, he's willing to be patient. If someone knows that this will get him to get $1 million, he will be patient and he will enjoy the difficulty of it. Why? Because his heart is attached to something else that is going to happen. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he said about this ayah, فَمَا يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ يقول يوسع قلبه, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expand his heart للتوحيد والإيمان به, to the tawheed and the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means if the heart is not expanded for the tawheed need that spaciousness. If not, then it becomes difficult to enter. And and this is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, ضيقا حرجا, whether it's the doubts, as we said, and the desires. And this is وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make any tightness for you with matters of the deen. And that's why Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu also, he said, يَجْعَلُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْإِسْلَامَ ضَيِّقًا وَالْإِسْلَامُ وَاسِعٌ. A person, then he would find that al-Islam very tight for him, while the reality is al-Islam is very spacious. So it's him being corrupted and his heart is being corrupted, not that the deen of al-Islam. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make any unease or difficulty for you for matters of deen. And it's all upon what's in the heart. And there's no manfadh or no place for the heart to get in. And many, of course, great benefits as a result of that. Then the next ayah, وهذا صراط ربك مستقيما قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يذكرون لهم دار السلام عند ربهم وهو وليهم بما كانوا يعملون. وهذا صراط ربك مستقيما. This is the صراط of your Lord مستقيما, straight path. So this is right after وما يريد أن يضله, and before that فما يريد الله يهديه ويشرح صدره الإسلام. So this is the صراط of Allah. This is the path of Allah. أي معتدلا, upright, موصلا إلى الله, makes the person reach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وإلى دار كرامته, and the place and the abode of the honor, which is the Jannah of Allah. Because the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the place where a person would reach the pleasure of Allah, and the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the Jannah. وهذا صراط ربك مستقيما. صراط ربك, the path of your Lord, مستقيما, straight. قد بينت أحكامه, its ahkam has been made very clear. وفصلت شرائعه قد فصلنا. فصلنا, as mentioned before, التفصيل, the details of it is all there. وفصلت شرائعه, and its shara'i', its paths and its ways and rulings has been made clear in details. وميز الخير من الشر, and the khayr has been completely separated from the evil. In the Quran, in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in the understanding of it according to the early generations of Islam, there is no ambiguity between the khair and the shar. It's completely very clear in every detail. Once a person he's not sure, then this is because of whether it's the corruption of oneself, the lack of knowledge, ignorance, all kinds of things. But in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-khair is very clear from the shar. And if to some the matter is not clear, because it's وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, al-halal bayn, haram bayn, and between the halal and the haram there is a gray area, or it's not, I'm not sure about the word gray, but it's not clear. It doesn't mean that it's not clear for everyone. It's not clear to some, but it's clear to others, those who have more knowledge, for example. And if it's related to the specific matter, also with this, it's very clear how to deal with these matters that are not clear. Because the hadith states, What to do when the matter is not clear, stay away from it. So this is the clarity of it. So everything has been explained in details, and that's why either the person has the knowledge or he has the people of knowledge, and the matter has been made very clear. وَمُيِّزَ الْخَيْرُ مِنَ الشَّرِّ. And the only place that people would see this clarity between the haqq and the batil, the truth and falsehood, and the good and the evil, is the wahy from Allah, and the only wahy, of course, which is the last revelation from Allah, that is safe from any corruption, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But then he says, وَلَكِنْ هَذَا التَّفْصِيلُ وَالْبَيَانِ لَيْسَ لِكُلِّ أَحَدٍ. This tafsil, these details and this clarity is not for everyone. It's only for those إِنَّمَا هُوَ لِقَوْمٍ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. To people that يَذَّكَّرُونَ, people that would be remembered, they would benefit, and adding to what's mentioned in the previous verse. فَإِنَّهُمُ الَّذِينَ عَلِمُوا. They are the ones that knew, so they had the knowledge of the wahy from Allah. فَانْتَفَعُوا بِعِلْمِهِمْ. And they benefit from their knowledge. That means they acted upon it. وَأَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمُ الْجَزَاءَ الْجَزِيلَ وَالْأَجْرَ الْجَمِيلَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared for them the recompense which is jazil, generous, وَالْأَجْرَ الْجَمِيلَ, and the beautiful rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So يَذَّكَّرُونَ, that means they are the ones that comes from the remembrance. So that means they are the ones that would benefit from the tafsil, from the details of the haqq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. Because the reminders benefited them. So this is how يَذَّكَّرُونَ. So every time they're being reminded, they benefit from it. Every time they're being reminded, they benefit from it. وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So they are the believers. Remind, because the reminder benefits the believers. So the more the person, and this is one of the ways to be upon what we heard. If a person make it upon himself that once he's reminded of the khair, once he's reminded of al-haq, he will be reminded. That means he will benefit from it and he will act upon it, not delay it, because people are in different levels. Whenever they are reminded of the truth, whether they reject it, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, and this is a bad sign, and this is the corruption of the heart, or they would have doubts, or levels, or they would seek excuses for them not to be upon the haqq, or they would say this is the haqq, but he's weak, he needs to have some help, or he will benefit from it. Benefit from it, this is the immediate response, regardless of one's physical or non-physical abilities. Because this is a sign of a belief, that once it becomes clear, he's reminded of it, he benefits from it. How he's benefit from it, his heart has no issues with it whatsoever. And then, of course, we're seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put burden upon someone that is beyond his capacity. So never to think bad about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the matter is beyond one's capacity. There's no way that there's a command of Allah that beyond one's ability. And if it's a person think that way, that means he does not know the tafsil, the details of the deen of Allah, and therefore to ask the people of knowledge. وهذا صراط ربك مستقيما قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يذكرون. And this is one of the characteristics of the people of knowledge. لهم دار السلام عند ربهم. For them, those people as mentioned in these verses, for them is دار السلام. دار السلام is Jannah, one of the names of Jannah. عند ربهم, with the Lord. He says فلهذا قال لهم دار السلام عند ربهم. وسميت الجنة دار السلام. الجنة is given the name of دار السلام لسلامتها. Salam is peace or safety from any harm, because it's the safety in Jannah from من كل عيب, from any deficiency, وآفة وكدر, the smallest impurity, the smallest disturbance, the smallest sadness and distress, and you name it. Anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in this life for the people to get an idea of how the punishment can be, and also to have an idea how happiness can be. If someone in this life, he has no weakness or deficiency or distress or sadness or any of the munaghisat. He says, وَغَيْرُ ذَلِكَ مِنَ الْمُنَغِّصَاتِ. Al-munaghisat, this is the plural of al-munaghis is one. At-tanghis is when something disturbs, something pokes the person. The Jannah does not have any of this whatsoever. So a person then would stay away from the silly questions that if men have hul'in, what do women have? All of these things are silly. Why? Because there's no tanghis in Jannah. There's no jealousy in Jannah. There's no envy in Jannah. There is no, I used to have a thing with that person in the dunya, and now in Jannah. There's all of the evil things, anything that you name it, and you make a list, endless list of the things that bothers the human beings in this life, it's removed completely in Jannah and is exchanged with something that is beyond one's feeling of what is good. So, and this goes back to how the human beings, and it's a seed of arrogance, that when it comes to al-ghaib, the unseen, they want to understand it from al-shahada, from what they see with their own eyes. It doesn't work that way. Al-ghaib, rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, leave the matter to Allah. It's unseen. But He gave us subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life what we can have an idea of what does it mean to be happy, what does it mean to be sad, what does it mean to be in pain, what does it mean to enjoy something, so that we can relate this to as far as the meanings are concerned, not the essence of everything in the hereafter. So he says, وَيَلْزَمُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, as a result of this, by necessity, أن يكون نعيمها, that it's the na'im of Jannah, since it's Darus Salam, has no faults or miseries in it, that it's na'im and its delight في غاية الكمال, in the utmost perfect state, ونهاية التمام. If we keep on adding words, it does not give us also what is the reality of it. نهاية التمام, the end of perfectness and complete of everything. بحيث لا يقدر على وصفه الواصفون, to the extent of which that al-wasifun, those who really able to describe things in the most perfect way, they won't be able to describe it. You know, some people are given these talents. Right? If they want to describe something, you would find them, they would describe it very well. So if you get the best of those who can describe anything, they can never describe the Jannah, even if they see it in this life. ولا يتمنى فوقه المتمنون. المتمنون, those who wishfully think of anything, they cannot wish for what's in Jannah. It's beyond the wish and the ceilings of wish. I'm literally translating from Arabic. You know, you always have wish. Like if someone tell you, wish for something that has no limits whatsoever, what are you going to wish for? Right? You're so limited. So even when the last person that enters Jannah, and when he's given when he's given the promise that he would get the like of 10 times of this dunya, every time one level after the other, and then after that, and whatever he wishes for, and wish. And he keeps on wishing, and then he's given beyond what he even would wish. So this is وَلَا يَتَمَنَّ فَوْقَهُ الْمُتَمَنُّونَ. No one will wish for something when they are in Jannah more than what they're given. And the more they're given, they would never have an idea of there anything beyond this, and then it keeps on increasing. من نعيم الروح والقلب والبدن, from the delight of the ruh, the soul, the heart, the physical body. ولهم فيها ما تشتهيه الأنفس, and in it what their nafs would desire. وتلذ الأعين, and the eyes are enjoying. وهم فيها خالدون, and they will be in it forever. لهم دار السلام عند ربهم وهو وليهم, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is وليهم. And this is the highest level of the rewards in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is وليهم, the one that supports them, helps them, and so on. الذي تولى تدبيرهم وتربيتهم. He's the one that took care of their affairs and their upbringing. وَلَطَفَ بِهِمْ فِي جَمِيعِ أُمُورِهِمْ, and all of their affairs, a lutf from Allah. That means things were being made to them without them feeling that it's happening, all by Allah, as the meaning of a lutf. That means during their life, they went through difficulties, trials, tests, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He decreed these things for them, because that's what's going to lead them to Jannah. وَأَعَانَهُمْ عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that helped them to be obedient to Him. وَيَسَّرَ لَهُمْ كُلَّ سَبَبٍ مُوصِلٍ إِلَى مَحَبَّتِهِ, and He made easy for them every path that would get them to reach the love of Allah. وَإِنَّمَا تَوَلَّاهُمْ, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tawallahum and protected them and guarded them with this, and this is the wilayah. Al-wilayah is not for the person to be superior in this dunya, in this worldly life, because this is equal for everybody, believers and disbelievers. But al-wilayah is for the person to be, as the previous ayah says, فَمَا يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ الْإِسْلَامِ. This is the wilayah from Allah. This is the sign that a person is waliy from awliyaullah, someone that the khair, the goodness, the sunnah, the way of the Prophet ﷺ is been made easy for him, and anything that reaches the person to the love of Allah. وَإِنَّمَا تَوَلَّاهُمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tawallahum and protected them بِسَبَبِ أَعْمَالِهِمُ الصَّالِحَةِ, because of their righteous good deeds. This is the nisbah, as always been mentioned. This is the lineage. This is the relationship. It's not because of a person, how he looks, or his parents, or his past actions. It's all al-a'mal as-salih. وَمُقَدِّمَاتِهِمْ, and what they've done initially in their life التي قصدوا بها رضا مولاهم, what they sent forth, what تقدم يا الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد. Let someone look of what he had sent forth for the day of judgment, where they intended with it التي قصدوا بها رضا مولاه, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's the Mawla, he's the protector, the one that guards them and so on. بخلاف من أعرض عن مولاه, completely different than someone turned away from Allah, turned away from his Mawla, from his protector, from the one that would support him. واتبع هواه, and followed his desire. And the more the person sees that, the more he would see how ignorant and how injustice and how evil for a person to turn away from his Mawla, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to follow what? To follow his own desire. That is not going to bring any goodness for him whatsoever. واتبع هواه فإنه سلط عليه الشيطان. When someone does this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala سلط عليه الشيطان. Allah would make the shayateen then to take care of him. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فإنه ومن يعش عن ذكر الرحمن نقيض له شيطانا فهو له قرين. Whoever makes himself blind from the remembrance of Allah, we will make a shaitan for him, right with him, to adorn the evil for him. فتولاه, so either the wilayah from Allah or the wilayah from the shaitan. Shaitan, when he becomes the mawla of the individual, that means he's the one that guards him and protect him, not protect him of course, he's the guardian of that person. He would lead them to the hellfire. فأفسد عليه دينه ودنياه. So he would corrupt for him his deen and his dunya. All of that because turning away. And that's why if a person turns away from the wilayah from Allah, then what does it mean? He does not stay in a neutral zone. He becomes from awliya al-shaytan in whatever levels, because it's also different levels. So the believers لهم دار السلام عند ربهم وهو وليهم بما كانوا يعملون, and this is that shows how the wilayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all of their affairs, and therefore they become from the people of the Jannah. بما كانوا يعملون, because of what they used to do. So this is how clear the matter is. And this a'mal, which is the reward of their actions, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has been made clear for them what is the a'mal. Not what they decide, but from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala. But as you see here, these verses and how it's related to the previous ones. And أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا, the example of the one that was dead, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him life. And he's given light to walk with this light among the people. Is he the like as the one that is in the darknesses, never leave it? كذلك زين الكافرين ما كانوا يعملون. And the verses afterwards, and then here فما يريد الله أن يهديه يشرح صدره للإسلام. This is the real life and this is the real light of الإيمان. وما يريد أن يضله يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد في السماء كذلك يجعل الله الرجس على الذين لا يؤمنون. And also remember يجعل Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is how he makes a rijs. This is the outcome of it. This is the impurity. This is the evil as a result of their disbelief. على الذين لا يؤمنون, those who do not believe, their punishment is their corruption of their hearts. وهذا صراط ربك مستقيم, whether it's what's just mentioned or in general the book of Allah, the Quran, the way of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام is the straight path of your Lord. قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يذكرون, the importance of a tadhkira and to benefit, and the meaning of يذكرون, that means they ينتفعون, they benefit from the reminders. لهم دار السلام عند ربهم, and the significance of عند ربهم وهو وليهم, and he is their wali بما كانوا يعملون, as a result of what they used to do. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who, as mentioned in these verses, and to guide our hearts and to keep us steadfast upon the deen of Allah. The attendance code is Darus Salam. Darus Salam is the attendance code. Anything else, inshallah? طيب, بارك الله فيك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.